All right. Returning back to our example where you borrowed money from your friend, we're going to look now at how much principal and how much interest is contained in a particular payment. I'm going to let you pause the video here and write this stuff down. All right. So for this particular part of the example, we're going to be interested in the principal and interest in the second payment. So remember at time 2 here, we've got this $200 payment. We're interested in basically how much accumulated interest is calculated in that particular included in that particular payment, and then how much does the actual loan balance go down from time 1 to time 2. That's the amount of principal that's in the payment. So for any payment, the remaining loan balance, of course, the principal, is reduced only after any accumulated interest has been paid. So to figure out that part, we first need to figure out what the loan balance is at time 1, because any accumulated interest at time 2 is going to be based on whatever the remaining balance was at time 1. So just using the retrospective method here, because it's a little bit less calculations to have to do, looking at the retrospective method to figure out the loan balance at time 1, remember that the initial balance of the loan was $1197.67. That was back in video 1, and we used it in video 3 as well. The initial loan balance is at $1197.67. We've got to move it forward 1 period, so we'll multiply it by 1.06. And there's only one payment that's occurred, and that happens to be at time 1. So there's no accumulating factor to multiply that by. When you simplify this, you get $969.53. That's our loan balance at time 1. That's what we're going to calculate the interest off of to figure out what the interest is included in the second payment. So in the second year, to find the interest in the second year, so we're going to denote that INT sub 2. To figure out that interest in the second year, we'll take the loan balance at time 1, that's the L sub 1, and multiply it by the interest rate. Just doing basically a simple interest idea. We take this 969.53, multiply it by the 0.06, and get 58.17. So this 58.17, this accumulated interest, has to be paid off first by the payment at time 2, which remember is the $200. That 58.17 has to be calculated off of that payment first before any principal reduction, before any loan balance reduction happens. So the 58.17 of the 200 is the interest payment, is the interest included in that second payment. All right. Now finding the principal included in the second payment is a simple matter. We know how much of the payment is going to interest. The remaining part of it has to go to the principal. So the principal included in the second payment, which we're going to denote PRN sub 2, will be the payment that happened at time 2 minus the interest at time 2. The payment was $200. Here's the accumulated interest. The $141.83 now then is the amount of principal included in that particular payment. And if you remember from the previous problem, the previous video, we had a loan balance of $827.70 at time 2. And if you notice, if you take the $969.53, which is the loan balance at time 1, and subtract the principal that's included in the second payment, you get exactly that loan balance of the $827.70, and that makes sense. So we note that we get the second loan balance, or excuse me, the loan balance at time 2 has to be the loan balance at time 1 minus the principal payment. And just like we've noticed in the other 2 videos that we've shot for this particular example and the other 2 examples that you've already seen, most of the loans that you'll be dealing with are level payment loans that you're paying off. For level payments, we can figure out some specific formulas, and there will be problems on exam FM that will expect you to know what these formulas are. So these are important formulas that are boxed down in the lower right-hand corner. So let's talk about where they come from. The interest at time t, remember the interest at time t is calculated off the previous loan balance, so the loan balance at time t minus 1, and then multiply it by the period effective interest rate. So we can calculate what this loan balance is, and we can use the prospective method for that, just to help us get the formula. Remember, the prospective method is the present value at that given time of the remaining payments. The time is t minus 1. So there are still n minus t plus 1 payments remaining. So using the prospective method, the balance at time t minus 1 will be the payment amount times the present value of that annuity immediate with n minus t plus 1 payments left. We still need to multiply that loan balance by I, and if we substituted our formula for the present value of the annuity immediate, we notice there's an I in the denominator. It'll cancel that I in the numerator, or the I on the end there that we're multiplying by to figure out the interest. So you get this interest formula at time t is the payment amount times 1 minus v to the n minus t plus 1. Now, to figure out the principal in the payment, it's the same concept that we just talked about in the example. The amount of principal is just the difference between the payment amount and the interest amount. So we subtract, put in what we just came up with for the formula for the interest, and we can factor out a payment amount, and then notice that your 1s will go away when you do that. So your principal in the teeth payment is just the payment amount times the v to the n minus t plus 1. So those two formulas, again, like I mentioned, you will need to know these for exam FM because it will have problems that specifically want you to use those particular formulas. So make sure you get those committed to memory.